be cozy. Where am I supposed to get a chair from now?
Okay, thank you all for coming. We'll try to breeze through quickly so we don't hold you hostage for your entire afternoon. There's a lot of conversation to be held, and I want you guys to contribute. If you have thoughts about things that you know or see or could use attention or whatever, that's what we're here for, to bounce some dialogue off of each other. I'll keep notes of things on your wish list and hopefully make changes as we can. Some things we can't change, some things, as we know, are mandated and we can't change. Even though we hate them, we have to do them that way. So one of our main focuses today is going to be on emergency preparedness. Those of you who have logged in recently have seen that I've pushed out a lot of policies about emergency preparedness and planning. And that is a huge focus in our Department of Health survey, is that we have a plan, and emergency preparedness plan that is effective and easy for people to understand, but yet detailed enough to get an appropriate job done. So that's one of our huge focuses, and then just some other just miscellaneous housekeeping things that we have to talk about with every meeting. I want to take a minute to introduce Ashlyn Skoglund. She is a pre-nursing college student at Brookings, so she is joining us for the summer for sure, and hopefully during some breaks, more welcome. So yeah, I could go around and introduce all these people, but you're never going to remember their names anyway. So you'll meet them and be more familiar as you orientate with many of them. So without anything else to do in terms of intro, we're just going to get started. So what we're going to do today is, in the way of emergency preparedness, we're going to talk through some of our plan, and we're gonna do, or we're not actually going to perform a knockdown drag out drill, but we're going to talk through the steps of an evacuation. And we're going to make a scenario that we've been hit by a tornado, and just say those two rooms are they are no longer able to be occupied. So what do? We have to evacuate our building. So first of all, hopefully I should back up a step and go to the severe weather warnings first, because typically we're not going to have a tornado that's going to blow half of our roof off without having some awareness that we're under some sort of warnings. So severe weather, and we are trying to build this nice little emergency preparedness plan binder that I want it to stay on this desk at all times. I want it to be a quick grab. I want it to, it spells out a lot of very important information, shutoffs for gas, power, water, who you should call, what you should do. So this should be on that desk all the time. So all you have to do is grab it. In there will be some policies, but remember we have a policy binder as well, and we have a disaster plan binder also. So I will try to include a few policies, but this is not meant to be a policy book. It's meant to be a quick grab reference for you. So just let's start so we're under a severe weather situation. We've gotten a code red alert, which I just checked this week on the county's website to make sure Lindenwood is registered as a code red alert recipient, and we are again. I don't know if I had to renew it, but I did anyway. So we should be getting code red alerts on our phone. I don't know if any or all of you have code red alerts on your own phones, but I would encourage it. I have it. I can't make you put it on your phones, but I think it's very beneficial in your own personal life too. But it could be helpful here too if you're in a room and the phone is ringing off the hook and you're the only person here. You may still have your phone on you and it doesn't matter. I can't force you to put it on your phone. That's just a little side note. But so if you get the code red alert in a severe weather situation, our ultimate goal is to get our residents in this room. And this room is chosen because it has no windows and it's an interior building, or interior room. So we want our residents in here, so we would go around and instruct them that we are under a severe weather situation. We want you to come to the living room, that is our room to shelter in place, so to speak. So we want you here, we can't make you come here, and they have the right to refuse to come here, but if they choose to stay in their rooms, that's kind of on them. We want to get as many people in here and make sure they're safe, and hopefully they all come, but that is their choice. We can't hold a gun to their head and say you have to be here. They have a right to refuse anything. So we get them in here, and then our emergency care protocol comes into play, and we want to make sure all of the things we may need, if it did escalate to, a fourth of our building, the roof flew off and whatever, and there may be some minor injuries, or now what do we do? We want to make sure our emergency totes are in here. The totes, as I will just remind people, are in the employee bathroom here on the floor. They're not up on a shelf. Well, I take that back, there is one down. But it's a tote with a lot of electrical cords, flashlight. There's a box with flashlights. I will say I bought 2 of these little flashlights this week, and they are hanging on our med fridge over here. There's also a rechargeable flashlight on a power strip near the fridge back here, the med fridge back here. These will be hanging on the side of the refrigerator out there. There's 2 of them just hanging on a magnet out there. I did buy more batteries, so if you run into a situation, I'd say grab the batteries in here too, because your flashlights might run out. And so in addition to the tote with the electrical cords, there's a box with flashlights. Some of them have like a lantern style. Residents are encouraged to have a working flashlight as well, so as you go around, maybe say to them, if you have a flashlight that's readily available, grab your flashlight and come to the living room. If they need oxygen, we want to make sure that their oxygen is also transported here. So it means hauling their concentrator here or cylinders. Now, if it was a true fast-acting emergency, those people that are not on continuous oxygen may not need it in here immediately. My first priority would be to get people in here and their immediate needs. Now, someone who's on oxygen for nighttime use only, I wouldn't consider that to be an immediate need to get that in here. Now, if you're
that's all we have currently.
right,
is the
we don't have
nighttime,
anybody
so-
that's on continuous
Right.
oxygen right now. That's a good point. But if we did, those individuals would have cylinders as well. So we would have to accommodate getting some cylinders in here. I don't know if you're all aware, but emergency power, we have a generator that powers some lighting, so it's not a fully lit building, and it powers some outlets. Outlets with emergency power have a red faceplate on them, and you'll see them in the halls, you'll see them in the kitchen, at the med desk here. I just had them put some in the garage today for refrigeration there. Are they anywhere else?
Med counter
Yeah,
and
med desk,
stuff,
yeah.
but
Anyway, in order to be an active outlet, it has to be a red plate on it, so you'll know that's an emergency power outlet. So that's why we have a lot of extension cords, because if we were out of power for a prolonged period, we would use extension cords to get to their oxygen concentrators so that we could plug the concentrators in and they could get their oxygen supply if needed.
so I did move, we had some of those little quilts that were given to Lindenwood. I did move them from the top shelf and I put them on top of our emergency preparedness, because some of our people come out, especially if it's nighttime, and they have to come to the living room. They have very little clothes on and they're cold when they come, so grabbing the bag of blankets to
Yeah, and
throw
I
on
mean,
them.
if time allows, you can potentially go grab a couple more things too, but We never want you to put yourselves in danger doing that either. Other things that are in there are bottled water, and it's not gonna be cold, but it's gonna be wet. Beverages from the pantry could be taken in, non-perishable food items could be grabbed. What else am I missing?
There's incontinence supplies.
Oh,
So
in the
like-
tote?
Yes, in the tote, there's like, briefs, depends, or wipes. I think that's pretty much it. First aid kit, you'd wanna grab.
Yeah, the first aid kit is, in this cabinet, on one of the shelves, so that contains a lot of, miscellaneous items that could be used in a first aid situation, hopefully. We're not faced with that, but you never know. So, now now our roof has blown off and we have to evacuate. So now we have to contact transportation, well, first of all, before you ever got to that point, hopefully you've contacted me, because I'm in town, and if I'm in town, I can come and help. You know, I'm most likely in town, I never go anywhere, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, so then, you know, in the event of emergency evacuation, you know, it's kind of all hands on deck, and you may or may not be here alone when that happens, and hopefully it never happens, but, you know, there are many hours of the day that there is only one person here, and you have to kind of know what to do. You have to, and I hope in some of your spare time, and I hope you aren't just clicking on, I've acknowledged this policy, because the policies are written to be your guide, so be somewhat familiar, and periodically pick up the binder and say, oh yeah, you know, in a severe weather situation, I'm supposed to, you know, X, Y, Z, read the policy, know what you're supposed to be doing. So our roof is blown off, we have to contact, you know, management, we have to contact EMS, so a 911 call saying, you know, we need volunteers, we need help, we need fire department, we need whomever can come and help us evacuate our building. Ludolph Transportation has agreed to be our method of transportation. If you don't know, I will tell you, we are key holders to the seniors dining building. We have a key on our MedCart keys. That would be our temporary evacuation location just across the street. However, it gets a little sketchy that if our roof blew off, maybe theirs did too. So, I mean, we can always go to a school, a hospital, a church,
Sue's house.
Yeah, my house. I have a multi-level home, so it's a little tricky, but we can shove them in the garage.
It'd be fine.
But anyway, so we get transportation, we get boots on the ground. The more hands we can get to help us, the better. Obviously, manpower is valuable. We attempt to grab as much of this stuff that we've gathered here and get it to the senior center with us. If we can't, we can't. Some key things that we do wanna make sure we get there, if we're able, is like our med cart, our binder, because there's a ton of really valuable information in the binder. Our laptop computer, which we can access as long as we have some internet connection, which could be a hotspot on a phone or whatever. We can access our software from any location. If we don't have internet, there is, our tasks has a vault that management can access chores and meds and responsibilities. It's a temporary situation, but we can get there. What are some of the other things?
Sign out sheet.
The sign out sheet, and that's a key player for any type of emergency, fire, whatever it may be. We grab that sign out sheet because our residents are educated to always sign out when they leave and always sign back in when you come in. Because if there is an event of any magnitude, we grab that, we look and see that, oh, Diette's signed out today, we aren't going to her apartment looking for her. Dave was out, but he's back, good, you know, so we know we just have one person out, that we have to just pass by that apartment. So residents are also educated on the importance of that A, yes, we want you to sign out, but B, make sure you're signing back in too, because if there is an event and you're signed out,
I'm not looking for you.
Yeah, we're not gonna waste time because we're trying to streamline our process here. If we were evacuating, in our binder, there's a list of residents and there's check boxes to say, once you get to your new location, I have Rick, I have Elaine, I have Lloyd, you know, you just check the box, that somebody's gotta be in charge and say, everybody's here, you know, or we're missing whatever, you know, so that's there too. This acuity thing, all of our resident lists are on here, and it kind of shows what their kind of specialized needs might be, you know, they need help walking, they need, you know, whatever, that's all here, just a quick snapshot. Another thing I'm going to add as soon as I get lanyards is for each resident, I've enclosed their face sheet in a pouch, and they'll each have a lanyard on them. So on this, it's basically just their face sheet, it's a picture. So this could also be used in a missing resident situation where you wanna show law enforcement a picture of a missing resident. You can grab this out of their room, you can give this to them, cause we can always reprint it. Just let me know that you did that so that I can reprint it. But anyway, this is like their code status, their diagnosis, their insurance information, their contacts, like all their family members, all those phone numbers. So this is a lot, it doesn't, some of them may have a few medications on, but I intentionally left their medication list off because it changes so often. So for this to be used as a working document, if they were to relocate, would be very unfair because it wouldn't be up to date. So I'm gonna have these kind of on the hinge side of their door, kind of, and I told the residents about this the other day, but I'm just gonna put a nail up here with the lanyards, and they're just gonna be there, so in the event of the emergency, you're knocking on the door, you're saying we're in a weather situation, we wanna grab this, because you never know if that escalates to evacuation. If it does escalate to evacuation, you put this around the resident, and if we lose track of a resident somehow, there's an identifier there. You know, EMS could say, oh, you're Lloyd Fink, okay, you know, you need help with blah, 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 you know, whatever, and, so, residents know about that, I just want you to know about it too. I'm trying to put them behind the door so they aren't like part of their wall decor or something ugly like that, but, just kind of a nice thing. What am I missing here?
Are we still on the policy of if we are in the actual warning where we are to shelter in the living room, we do not respond, we notify the residents that they choose to stay in their room, we do not leave our living room area, we do not respond to call lights, that's what it was in the past, are we still, because then we leave our group, and most of the time we're the only one here, especially because it happens in the evening.
Yeah, I would say in the event that there is a warning, let's say the tornado sirens are going off, you're getting everybody, because they're gonna go off twice, they're gonna go off when we're in the initial warning, and then they'll go off again if there's like a spot, like a tornado spotted. So with that first initial, I would get anybody in here that wants to come in, and then I would say yes, you would wanna stay with the largest group, but we could also let the other residents know, like if you choose to stay here, like I will be in the living room with the people that are choosing to shelter.
In the past, we have just reminded them that
Yeah.
if they choose to stay in their room, that we do not respond to a call light now
Right.
because our job is to maintain this room.
Yeah, and
That they can
like,
stay in
I
their
think
room.
the average is like, if the tornado sirens go off, you have like an average of 7 minutes
That's not long.
before a tornado would hit.
Right.
And so you don't wanna be out answering a call light
Mhm.
if there's a tornado that's coming through.
Right, now you've left the group.
Right,
And put yourself in, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the reality is, you know, they have made a choice, and,
Mhm.
you know.
They're aware of the consequences
Yeah.
of that choice.
So, extension includes a red card, computer, bottled water. Yeah, I think I grabbed everything on the list that I could think of that we would want in here, and then potentially transport it to our evacuation site. Once we have everybody at the evacuation site, we've checked our list off of, yes, everyone's here, you know, we would get busy trying to make contact with family members, letting them know what our situation is, asking for any help that they can offer in, you know, temporarily housing their loved one, because we can't go back to our building until we've been told it's safe to do so. So, if we can't make that happen for 100% of our residents, you know, obviously we have to stay with them until they can relocate to a more semi-permanent situation, which could be a real challenge because there are no nursing home beds, there are no assisted living room, I mean, you know, but at least we've got them in a temporary safe place, and, you know, we go from there, and there's protocol for that too. But I guess what I'd like to just stress to all of us is that our priority is to assure their safety to the best of our ability. We are not firefighters, we are not EMS people, we are not, so we just have to do what we can do to assure safety, and hopefully we get a lot of EMS help, be it fire, ambulance, whoever, when we call dispatch and say we need help. Hopefully we get a lot of boots on the ground to help us, and we go.
Okay, now what do we do if we're evacuating and say Rick didn't wanna come out of his room and he didn't come down here at all and we go to another place? Do we have to go back and try?
If it's safe, I would say we would go back and say, you know, the worst of the storm is past right now, we are forced to evacuate, you know, you need to leave the building. I mean, if there's electrical wires between him and I, absolutely, you're not gonna go through a situation and put yourself in danger, or if there's a flame, or, you know.
We
No.
would leave that for like fire department and ambulance, police.
Cause you have a spot to check them that stayed in the room? So
No, but I think, you know, if it's unchecked, that they're not in your group, and because the column that you're checking is that they have evacuated. Rick has
Okay.
evacuated, Elaine has evacuated, you know. If they're unchecked, you know they have not evacuated, you could, I mean, if you have a pen with you, you could make a note on the evacuation page. But this book should come with you when you're evacuating, we should have this book with us. Any other thoughts, questions, comments about emergency? You know, as you read through this, you'll see that I've gone through and clearly labeled all of the emergency power shutoffs. I've labeled all the emergency gas, natural gas shutoffs, the water shutoffs. You know, I'm talking about the mains, not like the water shutoffs in their sink in their bathroom. Obviously, we wouldn't shut off the main if there was a little leak in someone's bathroom, we just shut off the bathroom valve, but, so, I mean, just look at this, and then if it says, you know, the mechanical room south of number 9, you know, go in there and look and see that, oh yeah, there's that yellow page that's, they're talking about here, and that says we have to turn these all the way to the right, and there's that red, and we have to turn that all the way to the left, and, you know, just be familiar so that you're not caught with a lot of unexpected. And I know in the heat of the moment, you may forget just every single detail, but if you're somewhat prepared and aware prior, it's gonna be the best payoff in the end.
So, I know we've got the little cooler in the,
Oh, yes, another part of our emergency plan is, any medications in the refrigerator should maintain refrigeration if we have to evacuate. So most of our meds are on the med cart, which is on wheels, which is beautiful. We take the med cart, we just wheel it right out our building with us. But there are a few meds in the fridge. So as the Department of Health wants to know how we're gonna handle that. So we have a very small styrofoam cooler on the shelving in the employee bathroom, and it's got a huge label on it. This cooler is to be used for emergency transportation of refrigerated medications. We're gonna have to grab some ice or an ice pack, and we're not gonna assure that's between 37 and 43 degrees. I mean, what our effort is, we show that we are trying to maintain the product as it should be stored. So if we were to have 3 refrigerators full of meds, there are more styrofoam coolers in the garage up on top of the lockers on the west side of the locker situation, but I don't anticipate that. I mean, currently we have one injectable, and sometimes there's an eye drop that needs to be refrigerated until it starts use, but yeah, so anything else I have forgotten in that? way of that emergency preparedness.
So, and once we're notified for, are they gonna call like they used to? And,
That is part of the code red.
okay, so then will they call back when we're in the clear?
I don't think that system does.
Okay,
I think it would just be kind of on us.
cause it used to be,
Yeah, they used to call back and say all clear.
That was
Yeah.
before it was an automated
yeah,
code red system too.
Oh.
I mean, they used to physically call you. I mean,
Mhm.
there was an emergency management person who would verbally
Mhm.
talk to you and say, now it's like, this is code red, Murray County is blah, blah, you know, or whatever.
Okay.
So
Does it
I
weather?
don't think they,
So it would, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to like have this TV turned on like to the weather and be monitoring it at the same time too.
we also have a weather radio.
Yeah,
I know I have the app on my phone for Keloland, I mean, just whatever you can do to make sure that every effort is taken to safeguard the vulnerable people that we take care of is what we're shooting for.
and that binder can be used for any type of emergency, so
Right.
like a missing resident, a fire, what else is in there, like extreme heat or extreme cold, blizzards, anything like that, cause I think that one winter, I mean, you and I worked all those shifts and lost power at least 5 times. And so in that event, like it's nice to have that, like, just grab it, look through it, okay, what do I do if the power goes out, it's the middle of a blizzard?
And, you know, our generator will kick in right away, so that we'll have,
It didn't,
It didn't.
that was when it froze.
Yes.
That's pretty hard. Yeah,
She came and said, hey, isn't that supposed to start?
I know, I was like, why is it still dark
I'm like,
in here?
why is it still dark in here?
Yeah. What else was I saying? If you leaf through this and you have a question about what would I do if, and it's not in here, please let me know, because this is a work in progress, and I'm telling you, I've pushed out the same policy for the same thing probably 7 times, because I've thought of 3 more things that should be in that communication, or that shelter in place. So then I redo it, push it out again, so if you see, I just read that policy. I've made some tweak, and it may be very minor, but it is a tweak and it's a new policy then, so.
Work in progress.
Yeah, very much a work in progress. So while we're on the topic of emergency response, we have been told, now let me back up. We are currently not CPR certified staff. We are not gonna change that. So, we have 2 residents who are full code. So typically, if we have a resident who we either see go down and they have no life signs, or we just happen to stumble into their room for X, Y, or Z reason, and we see them either lying on the floor or sprawled out on the bed in kind of a peculiar situation, and we check to see if they're breathing, and we try to get a pulse, and we figure out that they don't have life signs. Typically, we would call 911, and they would come, and they would call the coroner if they feel like they're, and this is if the residents do not resuscitate, desires no CPR. So that is still the protocol, we still call 911, because they have to come and determine that, yes, this person appears to be deceased. Then they have to make the call to the coroner has to call the mortician, and there's a whole circle that has to happen. So, if it would happen to be one of our residents who desires full code, we would still call EMS and communicate to them. We have a resident that, was last seen 4 hours ago, we just happened to see them now, they are showing no life signs, they are full code on our records, and they are going to,
So they are going to send you to a service up in the cities, and it's just so, it's a new service that they just started doing like a few years ago, where it's like anybody in the street can call 911 if they come across somebody who's unresponsive, and they direct you on how to check for life signs, and then what to do if they don't have life signs, or what to do if they have certain life signs but not others. Because of this, we decided that it would be good to have a policy so that if, you know, us as staff go into a room, find our full code patient unresponsive, and we call 911 and then they send us to this service, we're not like, are we supposed to do this, are we not supposed to do this, what do we do? So I worked on a policy and procedure called the Good Samaritan Law. And the Good Samaritan Law covers anybody in the state of Minnesota, it's actually a statute, saying that when, in the event that you contact 911, they direct you on what to do for somebody that is unresponsive and having no life signs, we cannot be held accountable for, like, not doing it correctly or not saving their life or doing something without being certified. So, in the event that you come across somebody who is unresponsive, you call 911, they direct you to this line. It's going to be a responsibility of us to follow them on what they tell us to do.
And sometimes they might say to you, if you say the last time we saw them was 4 hours
Yeah.
ago, they're gonna probably ask you questions like, you know, does the body feel warm, or, you know, I mean, and they're maybe going to get to a process by asking several questions of thinking, you know, they might say, you know, EMS will arrive soon, and EMS is gonna arrive soon
Yes.
anyway, because when they escalate the call from our local EMS, they're already dispatching EMS to arrive here.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, they transfer this call to the metro, to this service.
Yeah, I can't figure out what the name of it is.
Tries to walk a lay person through life-saving skills, but,
And it's very, I mean, very dumbed down, which is not the most appropriate term, but that's what it is. They will say like, you know, hold your hand on their chest, do you feel them taking breaths? Put, you know, your ear next to their mouth, can you hear them breathing? Like very laid out for you so that anybody in the street could call and be able to attempt rescuing.
there's a couple of things I think we should know, is the likelihood of that happening with 2 residents that are full code is pretty minimal. It can happen. It could happen that Diet or Eli just collapse here too and show the life signs. Same thing would apply. I would call 911, say, I have a young man here who's on duty and he just collapsed, and they would say, EMS is on the way, and they escalate that call to Hennepin County, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Hennepin County would try to guide you through. But if you say, I saw this resident 4 hours ago, and now they're lying on their bed with no life signs, you know, they're gonna start to question that. But just know that it is, you should just think of it as the very same situation as if you were at a picnic with your entire family and somebody went down in front of you and you called 911. That's what they're gonna do to you if you're in that situation or if you're here. They're gonna say, we're here to help, and they're gonna ask you a series of questions to determine, and they're gonna stay on the line with you, and they're gonna coach you through what is hoped to be a successful resuscitation for Eli, but, you know, I mean, no guarantees, and you can't be held accountable if it doesn't work out. I mean, that's just as simple as it is.
Yeah.
And I know it can sound intimidating, but again, the likelihood of it happening is pretty narrow. And if it does happen, all we ask is we do our best. Listening to the coach, we just do our best.
Just follow exactly what they ask and what they say and answer their questions, and they'll stay on the line with you the whole entire time until EMS arrives, and then when EMS arrives, it's no longer your responsibility. Care gets transitioned over to them. So, I mean, whether you're performing effective CPR or not, that's not really the idea of it. The idea of it is to try to start resuscitative measures as soon as possible. Because if somebody's unresponsive for 15 minutes, the likelihood of them being able to be resuscitated dramatically drops. Especially, you know, if it was your coworker or, you know, a younger resident.
So just to highlight, they're gonna ask you to maybe, you know, do some chest compressions or to, attempt to breathe for them. So we've just purchased a couple of these CPR masks, just in case we would stumble on it. And we're gonna locate them in whatever location you guys think would be ideal. We thought about like one in the fire extinguisher box over there and one in the fire extinguisher box over by number 9, just so that they're not in the same side of the building, they're a little bit spread out, and actually, that one is full code and that one's full code, so that's probably where they would get used, I mean, but everybody needs to know, because as I said, it could be a visitor, it could be a staff member, it could be a resident, it could be anybody, and
Volunteer.
yeah. So just a high level overview of this mask that'll be in this box.
It looks like there's very specific instructions in here. So like step 1 is unfold mask, so it just pops out. Looks like this. It's pretty self-explanatory. Nose goes here, chin goes here, and then if there's 2 people here, that's the best way to do it. Somebody to hold the mask on their face and the other person to give the breaths. With one person, you just wanna try to get a good seal on the mask with one hand, hold their head with the other, and then give your breaths. So this has like it must have a little valve on it that like protects if they have any like infectious illness, so like anything that would spread by giving breaths through this would be caught in this filter, and then we replace that after each use, to make sure that it's nice and clean for the next time. Comes with close. So, any questions about that? Okay.
Does everybody think those would be pretty decent
One on each one.
locations, just to keep them?
Okay.
Hopefully we never ever use them. The next topic, and it's probably one of the bigger ones too, is survey. So, as most of you know, we are surveyed by the Minnesota Department of Health. Supposed to be every 2 years. I'm told they're behind that schedule, but our last survey was June of 22. So next month, we could potentially be in our 2-year survey. Well, we're already kind of in our 2-year survey window. I think we are survey ready every day. I really do. I think that everybody here does a good job. I think you should all know, many of us maybe have not been through a Department of Health survey. It can be very intimidating. They will watch you converse with residents, they will watch you give cares to residents, they will watch you give medications, do treatments, do food service, they'll survey the environment, they'll critique our emergency preparedness plan, they'll talk to families, they'll talk to residents about their satisfaction. So they hit a lot of areas. There are usually 3. One is a nurse, and she's kind of the survey team lead. A second is a sanitarian, which focuses mostly on the kitchen and the Minnesota Food Code. A third is an environmental surveyor, and he's an engineer. So he's, measuring our windows to make sure that people can get in and out of our windows, or EMS can get in our windows. I mean, there's just a whole checking our generator there. So there's 3 people that are dashing around here, and they're probably here 2 to 4 days, depending, if there's their software, if they find one thing wrong, it triggers them to look for 5 more things on that alley. If they find nothing wrong here, they're going over here, which is short list. But if they find one thing wrong in this category, they're surveying. So if every category they survey in, there's something wrong, guess what? They're gonna be here probably 4 days. If they see nothing wrong, they're probably in and out in 2 to 3 days. But I just wanna say, as much as I can tell you this, I know it's probably gonna say, yeah, right. Don't feel intimidated by them. They have a job to do, we have a job to do. We all know our jobs pretty well, but they're probably gonna trip us up on something. If they do trip you up by asking you, any given question, I can't even think of an example right now, but,
What's your policy for a missing resident?
you can say without a doubt, you can say, I cannot tell you the exact policy, but I will find out and I will let you know. And that's a very acceptable answer. I'd rather you say, I'm not sure, but I will check and I'll let you know, than just to say, oh, I don't know, I've never been told anything about that. I don't know anything about it. And when in fact you do know a lot about it. So that is the wrong answer. Tell them, I don't know exactly, but I will find out and I'll get back to you. And then get back to them too, don't just leave them hanging. But you can come to us and you can say, this is a question I was asked, can you help me find the information, can you tell me what I should say? And that's what we're here for. Because anytime there's a surveyor in the building, we're in the building, so. If you, and it never used to be this way, but now they've gotten where they call you and email you like several hours prior to their arrival. So if you receive that call from Jenny at the Minnesota Department of Health and we're on our way to survey your building, and I'm not here, Sarah, Michaela, Brooklyn, nobody's here, get on the phone and call. Because we gotta scoot in here and we gotta, there's a whole thing, a lot of things that we can, just quick run through and check, but, and again, I say, you do a good job every day, so we're not excited about checking, but we're excited about being here on their arrival, so the heat is kind of taken off for you guys. So please call right away, myself and the RN on call, for sure, and then we can triage who needs to be called after that. Let's see, they come and they do an entrance tour, so they'll tour the building, and then they sit down with whomever, most likely me, and there's an entrance conference, which they ask several questions, what's your resident population, how many of this, whatever, so we just sit down and do that. They review resident and staff records, facility policies, staff education, educare, that's a mandate. We'll get a ding on it if your educare is delinquent. Do your educare. They'll observe, like I said, med passes and resident cares. Just make sure you're doing your 5 rights, the right resident, the right medication, the right strength, the right route, the right documentation. Just relax, take your time, don't try to hustle through. They'll observe meal preparation and overall kitchen procedures, focusing a lot on sanitation, hairnets. Hairnets are not optional, hairnets are mandatory. Hairnets. You guys get the message here? I see a lot of people with no hairnets on, not okay. If you're in the kitchen, you got a hairnet on. I think any one of us could attest to the fact that if I go to a restaurant and I find a hair in my food, I am checked out, I'm done. I don't wanna eat that food, that is gross. So hairnets are a mandate. They'll focus on temperatures of food. So are you temping your food? Are you temping your drinks to make sure your cold beverages are served at a cold temperature? Every food item that you serve is either at the proper cold temperature or the proper hot temperature. That you're not leaving things that should be hot on a counter to cool. They need to be quick cool because there's a bacteria range. I'm not here to give a food code presentation today, but just some things, So they'll ask about policies and procedures. They'll ask you about resident rights. Do your residents have any rights here? And you say, I don't know. No, yes, they do have residence rights. They are covered by the Assisted Living Bill of Rights. They sign it, we review it, that's part of your educator training, the Assisted Living Care, Home Care Bill of Rights. So yes, they do have rights, and when within their means, their rights trump our wishes. It's their home, we work in their home. They will ask about if we honor resident privacy, and the answer is yes, because we're supposed to, now I don't know if this gets done all the time either, I'd like to say it does, knock before we enter, and we're supposed to wait to be granted access to enter even. Now, we know a lot of our residents are very hard of hearing, and they're not maybe gonna hear us, so if you knock and nobody answers, I feel it's appropriate just to open the door a crack and say, do you mind if I come in, or, you know, whatever, but we just can't go barging in there. This is their home, this is their, I mean, that'd be no different if they lived at 2409 Linden, or 2645 Linden Avenue, and we opened the door and walked in. I mean, we can't do that, so. Privacy is huge, so we don't, you know, HIPAA, they'll ask you if you know what HIPAA is, and you don't have to remember that HIPAA still, it stands for Health Information Portability and Accountability Act. You don't have to know that whole acronym, but what you do need to know is HIPAA is a law that we have to abide by, which protects resident privacy information, health information. You know, we can't go saying, oh fudge, did you know that Rick has cancer of the colon now, and he's, you know, he's probably gonna die pretty soon. Yeah, I mean, you know, what is their personal information is theirs, and that's kind of a blatant act there, but what we also have to know is that there are many listening ears, and you maybe think that when you're standing at the dish counter and your coworker's standing by the garbage can talking to you, that nobody's hearing you. Wrong, they're hearing you. So that conversation should be for another time. And even on, I know we don't have a break room, which is very unfortunate, but even in the dining room, our voices should be somewhat subtle, so that, you know, if we're talking loudly, who knows who's, I kinda know who's lurking in this hall, but there could be someone lurking anywhere that's intentionally listening, so just be mindful. There should be no personal items, food, drink, phone, whatever, anywhere in the kitchen. On a countertop, on the center island, by the ice machine. If you want those things near you, there's that little shelf in the pantry area, that would be an appropriate place. And I don't discourage you from having something to drink, but those should not be in the kitchen. That would be a citation. The med cart must be locked. The med cart must be locked. The med cart must be locked each time you step away from it. I can go by and push that med cart locked many, many times. You have to lock it. It's a double lock system for controlled meds, so you're in violation of that if you're not following the double lock rule. And all medications must be locked. That's just plain and simple. So don't walk away from the med cart without being locked. And the laptop is also a HIPAA violation. Just close that laptop just enough. It doesn't have to be shut, but just enough so there's no clear view of any personal information on that laptop when you walk away.
I just wanna add in, we should never leave anything on the med cart that we wouldn't want another resident to walk by and grab. So like, if we're, you know, we set a cream down real quick so we can run into the kitchen to grab a glass of water so this patient can take their pills, or resident can take their pills, not okay. Because any of these people can walk up, grab anything, you would have no idea that they grabbed it, that they opened the drawer, took something out.
I think, when I go back to the locked med cart, I think it's important just to say, if you develop a habit of walking away from that med cart and just thinking you're going to, you just go to that bathroom and grab 3 sleeves of med cups, you know, or whatever. So you walk away from your med cart. Now you got distracted, 2 people called you off, and now your med cart has sat for 15 minutes unattended and unlocked. And if that's a habit for you to walk away from your med cart unlocked, guess what you're gonna do when surveys here? You're gonna walk away from the med cart and leave it unlocked, and you're gonna get cited for that. So develop the good habit, lock the med cart. Whenever you have any discussion with any of the survey team. If there's any question about how you handle resident needs or, like, I can't think of a good example, this is, maybe if you notice a resident is coughing, or, they've never coughed really much in the past, and, what would you do about that? Or, I think it's very important to always reference the RN, because ultimately, the RN is the person that holds the license to operate this building. It's a mandate that there has to be a clinical nurse supervisor, RN, that is on call 24 hours a day, so in all technicality, you shouldn't really even be calling me with a resident illness. Now, we kinda have a triage system here, but I guess I'd never really come clean to a supervisor and say, oh, we call Sue and, she tells us what to do. I would say, we call the RN. You always say, we call the RN, we call the RN, we call the RN. We have an RN on call 24 hours a day. So, the RN is key to all resident care, medications, incidents, appointments, all things medical. The RN must be aware of everything in the building. So even if if it's something that, is not flaming, like you've noticed a little cough on so-and-so, maybe a text message saying, notice this cough, would you like us to do anything? I checked the vital signs, this is what that, but you don't necessarily have to pick up the phone and call the RN every single time you notice kind of a minor thing, but that does have to be communicated to them. Anything to add to that? Anything else, veteran staff, survey topic?
No, you also told me in the kitchen, do not put that sanitizer bottle on the counter.
Thank you. So the sanitizer bottle and that hand washing sink in our kitchen are considered to be very contaminated surfaces. Nothing, food container, nothing, that area is a hand washing sink open. No, you should never put anything there. You should strictly use it to wash your hands, grab your towel, scat. Don't set stuff on that counter at all. It's a very contaminated area, and that'll be a citation too. And that sanitizer bottle, so I pick up that sanitizer bottle from under the counter, contaminated area. I take it to a table, I spray my sanitizer, Now I bring it back into my kitchen, I set it right in my center island where 2 seconds later I'm gonna set it aside and I'm gonna cut my chicken up. Guess what? What have we carried everywhere with the bottom of that sanitizer bottle? That sanitizer bottle should be either in your hand or under that sink. Yeah, thank you. I forgot about that one. I'm gonna roll into Minnesota Food Code. So I think I already talked about no personal drinks in the kitchen area, immediate kitchen area around that. Egg flats, so if you're just say the night person and you're gonna have 4 recipes that use eggs, or you're the morning cook and you're gonna be serving fried eggs to 4 or 5, 6 people over the next hour and a half, you do not take out eggs ahead of time. You don't grab the flat and set it on the counter. That's a temperature controlled item. And once you take it out of the refrigerator, it's already starting to drop temperature. You take out 2 eggs for the person who ordered 2 eggs. You take out 4 eggs for the recipe that needs 4 eggs. Never take out more eggs than what you're going to prepare immediately. Everything must be dated. Everything must be dated. Everything must be dated. It doesn't matter. Milk that has an expiration date on it, you still have to date it the day you open it. Everything has an expiration date on it. Doesn't matter. You still have to date it the day it was opened, because there are dates of acceptable food safety that, if you're in violation of keeping milk, 18 days after it's open or whatever, that's just an example, but, guess what I have in here again? Hair nets are not optional. I guess I wrote that in there a few times. Hand washing often. So I'm in the kitchen, and just a side note, hand sanitizer is not acceptable hand hygiene for a food worker. It's got to be hand washing with soap and water. So I come to work, I get my hairnet on, go to the kitchen, I wash my hands with my soap and water, sing through happy birthday twice, make sure everything's rinsed off, go dry with my paper towel, throw my paper towel away, shut the sink off with a new paper towel, and I go put my gloves on, and I get started with my day. And now Johnny comes into the dining room and says, "Say, I'll have 2 eggs, but hey, could you push my walker over here?" So I go over and I push Johnny's walker over here with my gloves on. What do I have to do?
Switch gloves.
Switch gloves and wash your hands. You're supposed to wash your hands between every glove change. You should never really leave your kitchen with your gloves on, because the temptation to come back into the kitchen with those same gloves on is pretty great. So before you leave the kitchen, take the gloves off, toss them in the garbage, and go help do X, Y, or Z. Make sense? When you're changing food items like buttering toast to cutting up your chicken for the day, and then going back to buttering toast later. Just change gloves between those differences in foods. Food code is huge. And again, hand sanitizer is not acceptable form of, and I really wasn't aware of that until the last survey, because we did get a citation on that. Food temps, so always use, we have a long, thin food probe thermometer, and that's really long, and it's got an extra thin tip on it, so that you can probe things such as a chicken patty and get right into the middle of the chicken patty. Because if you're only sticking your probe at the very circular edge of that chicken patty, you're really not getting an accurate temp. You have to go into the middle. And just as a casserole, don't tempt the outside of the pan, go into the middle of the casserole, just so you're sure that everything is at temperature, because likely the outside of the casserole is going to be at temperature, but the inside is not necessarily. It could be. I would have forgot to that, Mary, my sanitizer. So that's that.
Number 12.
I'm just gonna talk a little bit about food quantities. So now we have 14 residents, and staff are allowed to eat, whenever there's a meal prepped. Staff are allowed to eat, extras or leftovers or whatever. So, just as a reference, night staff should be preparing enough for, 14 residents and up to 4 staff members. So, that 18 servings is about right. And a serving of a salad, like a fluff salad, just say for instance, is not 2 tablespoons. A serving should be a salad, like I'm thinking like a pea salad or a fluff salad or a Jello salad or just any salad types of things. I would say a minimum of a half a cup. And I know we don't have the biggest eaters, but I feel like for the amount of money these people pay to live here every month, we shouldn't be serving them a skimpy portion. And I know 9 times out of 10 they might not clean their plate, and that's okay too. Or there might be people who ask for a smaller serving, and that's fine. But just make sure that you're not skipping servings, because it doesn't look good to me anyway. And maybe other people have a different feeling about it, but I just think serving size is important. Desserts, cookies, bars, it's always nice to have leftovers of those too. And I'm not saying we should have 7 choices on our pantry shelf at any time, but to make a dozen and a half cookies, say. Cookies, can be used for afternoon snack, they can be used at bedtime snack, they can be used if somebody has company. If Elaine Johnson has her coffee ladies in, 5 cookies could be used. So cookies, a generous portion of cookies is always good. Bars, whatever, it's a discretionary thing, and I know sometimes, but you know, if we have visitors, and then it's just nice to have extra. If there's something that needs to be adjusted in a recipe or supplies to produce that recipe or any of those things, please let me know. I can tweak things a little bit to try to make that a little more universal for everybody, but just be aware that quantities should be sufficient. We're coming up on season of gardeners in the community bringing produce for us to use. A few things to that. A, graciously thank them for their generous donation to, because our residents do appreciate it, and it's very, very kind. They wouldn't have to do that. But if you are the staff person receiving anything that is brought to us from the door, and you see that we have 7 flats of tomatoes in our back pantry, and somebody comes with 2 flats of tomatoes, you know, it's okay to say, gosh, we really appreciate that, but we have so many tomatoes right now, and if you can think of someone else that could use their tomatoes, you know, and keep us in mind for a couple weeks down the road, or, you know, whatever, there's a kind way of saying no. If something's brought to us and you graciously accept it and then bring it to the pantry and find that 4 out of 6 are rotten, just take it to the dumpster. Don't leave it in the pantry to let fruit flies fly around. And if something is visibly dirty, like carrots that have been just dug out of the ground, there's dirt clumps everywhere, please take the time to wash that. And then properly store. So if you get 4 dozen ears of corn, that corn can't sit in the pantry for overnight. It needs to be cooled. And ideally, if you had time, you'd gather, the residents love to husk corn. Set up a table out in the garage and let them husk the corn, and then, you know, label it as husked on this date and put it in a big tub, and, you know, if there's not time to cut it and bag it, at least it's husked and ready to go. So don't just assume that it's not your job. It's everybody's job. It's dietary's job. It's the med cart person's job. It's everybody's job to pitch in. So let's see, is there more to that? You must label them the day they arrive. Yeah, everybody should take the initiative to cut, freeze, and prepare foods that are brought in. Menu changes, again, I'll just reiterate, it's a state statute that we have a 1 week worth of menus posted at all times. If a menu needs to be changed, I would discourage changing menus unless there's a very valid reason, such as ingredients are missing for that recipe, I can't make it. But if you change a menu, remember there are 2 menus. There are the menus in the kitchen that we work off of. There's the legally posted menu in the dining room on the bulletin board. They both have to match. So make sure if you're changing one, you're changing both. Let's see. In the dining room, walkers. So resident walkers, we need to be really careful about not having those walkers around the tables. And I know it sounds odd, but to take them away. But if we all stay consistent in the message that they're a safety hazard when they're brought to a table and left there, because staff have tripped on them and residents have had significant falls with trying to get around a walker that's sitting there and their leg catches it and down they go. So walkers have to be removed to the perimeter of a room, and residents should be educated and are educated with consistent education saying, when you're ready for your walker, just let us know and we'll bring it back to you. Just move it to the side of the room, but don't move it like here in front of the door, because these are fire doors that if there was a fire and an alarm was activated, these go shut automatically and they're designed to stop the travel of smoke. So if there was anything in front of those fire doors, which there should never be, obviously it would be a hazard for an emergency. They shouldn't go in front of the center island. They shouldn't go in front of the coffee area, or obviously the walkways in and out of the kitchen. So I realize there is limited space. If need be, we've had it where we had 16 or 17 residents here, and we've had to move walkers out into the front lobby and just set them kind of off to the side so that that's a clear pathway. But they cannot be next to the tables for various reasons, various obvious reasons. Kind of a statute that was also brought to my attention on our last survey, our cleaning cart in that room there cannot be closer than 3 feet from the east wall of that mechanical room. It's all the electrical panels, and there has to be a 3-foot minimum walkway, clear walkway between that fire panel and any object thereafter. So it has to have a clear 3-foot path. I have pushed the cart very close to that wall in the cleaning room, and it works. I would say try to do that, but you also have to use a little caution because there are a lot of wires over there, so just making sure when you're moving it in and out, you aren't interfering with any of those wires. I'm gonna just kind of lower my voice a little bit here. Mary Perry, I don't know if all of you are aware, but she can be just a little bit overly helpful sometimes. And she does it with good intention. And despite the number of times that we've told her that she can't be on the backside of her island, she can't touch things on her island, she still, she just forgets. I don't think, it's not malicious, and she comes off as someone who's got it very much together, but she doesn't, she forgets. And no matter how many times you educate her, she's never gonna remember that she can't touch things. And even if you set it on the center island, and you have something covering it, even maybe just a dish towel over it, it's not so visible, she'll take that and peek out, and she maybe will help herself, which is a huge food code thing. I mean, they can't touch our food, and if we would see that, we'd have to throw it away, it just happened. But I think for all purposes, we should never leave anything there unless we are in the kitchen. If we're not, we have to make sure it's on that back counter of the kitchen, that east wall, and cover it back there too, so it's just kind of outside out of mind and out of reach out of mind. Yeah, she could be a little bit tricky, but, and she's not doing it, like I say, with any malicious intent, it's just who she is. Let's see. Educare, that was my last bullet, I think, is just to get your Educare done. They'll review that, and I know that you're probably tired of listening to the emergency preparedness modules. That is a mandate that those are done twice a year, so you'll see them come through twice in a year, and that's just, it's a state mandate, so nothing you can do about it. Just do them. I know they're painful sometimes. Just do them. Are they painful, Ashlyn?
Well,
She just
there's
probably
just a
completed
long time to
30
sit
hours.
down at once, but it's good to learn all that. Really important.
They're painful.
Accurate.
Try doing that 3 different jobs.
I can't imagine. I don't know, can you think of anything else?
I think the last thing was just CDC updates,
Oh, yeah.
just briefly, cause
We're talking about COVID here.
yes, yeah, COVID updates, so I'm working on updating the binder. It's a work in progress, but pretty much the main change now is that it's treated like, any other respiratory illness, so like influenza, RSV, anything like that. If a resident develops symptoms of COVID or influenza, cause they're very similar, they would be isolated to their room and tested, but we wouldn't go on like testing all the other residents, testing the staff members. They would just be isolated until their symptoms subside or until they're fever-free for 24 hours. We would still do our PPE, like our droplet precautions, like we would with influenza, but we wouldn't have to like mask up through the whole building anymore. We could still work with the other residents just with standard precautions, so that'll be a change that's coming too.
So anybody else got anything that we should talk about today? It's a good time to do it because we're all together, so, I mean, if you have, and I know I don't say it enough, but thank you for everybody for everything you do. You know, it takes a village, and without the village, we would be a sinking ship, so. I don't say it enough, but all of your hard work does not go unnoticed. You're a great team, and I hear it from visitors, I hear it from families, I hear it from residents, that the staff here, wow, you got a good staff here, wow, you got a good staff here, and wow, your place looks so nice, and wow, your services, and I hope you guys hear it too, but I want you to know that I hear it a lot, and it means a lot to me, because, like I say, nobody could do the job without everybody. The last thing is a new handbook. You can't dispute it, you can offer suggestions. What I need from you is an acknowledgement that you received this packet. So, drop it off as you leave the room, and don't sit and read it, because when you read it at home and you see something that you want to ask questions about it, you're welcome to talk to me about it, and I will bring it to the board and see if it's something they're interested in changing.
Right, about, okay, so, I was gonna do it today, but then I got not able to come this morning and
Yours will come because we don't have an old one, so you're just gonna get the new one. Did you send me one? Yes.
And
I did? Yes or no, dear?
Yes, you did.
Were you sleeping then yet?
You can't sleep.
Okay, I know that's a lot of information to cover in, what, an hour and a half, whatever, but, it's all stuff that's important, and, yeah.
Oh, one more thing was, the oven is off on degrees, so on baking and that, to make sure
Is
that.
it still?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is not. 25, right?
Yeah, it's 25
Yeah.
degrees.
To make sure that things are done.
They couldn't go any further unless they put a new door on
Yeah, and that door still isn't shut all the way either.
it. And they
Kind of a
can't do anything about that unless they put a new door on it, and that's obsolete, so. Okay, bring it up to the board, we want a new oven and a new dishwasher,
Yeah.
What's wrong with your dishwasher?
We don't have a dishwasher, you guys.
Well,
or
if we're gonna
sanitizer.
What's wrong with our sanitizer?
You have to run it like 5 times before you use it, so it doesn't shut off.
It don't like me.
It doesn't shut off unless you left it
Well,
idle
if we're
for-
asking for stuff, I want Bloody Mary Monday. Can we have that?
I'm in,
I'm asking for it.
We'll just start making a list.
Make a list.
Put a new stove for sure.
I don't disagree. You know, the building is 25 years old, so it's original to the building. And, yeah, things don't last forever. And it's had a lot of repairs done, and
Mm-hmm. Did you have them come put that new spring stuff
I
on?
did not.
Okay.
I could ask him to do that too. I did get a new spring assembly, but I'm not, I don't know. I think it would help. I can have you call the friends back. Your friends, all right, well, that's all I have.
Jeff, come put this on.
Questions are always welcome, and, you know, I say this to a lot of people, I don't know if I say it every day, but I'm not the person that's doing the work, nor is Michaela, Sarah. You know, sometimes we push work or tasks or duties out, we're not the ones that do them. So, if you guys think there's a better way to do something, a more efficient way to do something, a different time to do something, unless you say it to us, we aren't gonna know, and we aren't gonna evaluate, and it's a dead subject. You can grumble between yourselves all you want, and it's gonna get you nowhere unless you come and say to us. And I feel like we're pretty approachable. Cal, you know, we do this every single day, and do you think it would be okay to try to do it this way? And, I mean, like I say, we're not the ones doing it, so we push tasks and policies out, and we don't always see it in action, and there's, once it hits the floor and goes into action, you guys are the testament, so.
Oh, one thing I wanna say too is when you're using the stove and you spill on it, those grates, those burners come up and you can take them over to the sink and wash them off. They may be hot, so you might need a hot pad to get them off, but
They will be hot, I think. Always use a hot pad, because even the pilot
yeah,
keeps
the
it.
pilot gets it awful
does
warm.
keep it very warm.
Clean up your messes, please.
Yeah,
Because
that's
if
not
we
a
cook-
one-man band either, I mean, if you make a mess, clean it up.
Cause lots of times if we come early in the morning and we start frying eggs right away and we don't see it right away, and then it gets burnt on and yucky and it's harder yet to clean.
If someone's full code and we're providing CPR, when are we supposed to get the paperwork ready?
I think that is probably gonna be the least important
Okay.
side of it. If anything, like when EMS arrives, you can get the paperwork after that and then just fax it to the ER. Like they don't have to have it. 90% of the time, our residents doctor here in Slayton, so they have all of their records and stuff anyways. So I think that, as long as you get it over there somehow in a timely manner. Because when that resident gets to the ER, they're not gonna be worried about looking at paperwork or anything. They're gonna be trying to save their lives, like they won't really look at that
It's no
until,
different than someone who's bleeding profusely.
Yeah.
You're not gonna walk away from them to go
right.
prepare a packet of paperwork.
Or like if somebody falls and has a serious break or injury and, you can always fax paperwork over.
And contact family and our end.
And do all of
I mean,
that, yeah.
Your first priority is to get the resident taken care of and out the door and safe, and then, those tasks can follow.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Cool. Well, thanks, everybody. It's a lot of information, a lot of time, but that's what happens. A lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm Michaela. I'm gonna do some of your new hire stuff there, okay?
I'm excited to learn.
Awesome.
See everything.
Yeah, that's great.
Sign out.
Oh, yes, clock out.
Today, her plan
Oh, I
is
better
to
shut my
focus
video
on
off.
the cabinet.